Question is Sea of Stars worth your money and, more importantly, your time? If you're not familiar with Sea of Stars, it is a retro style, turn-based RPG. The game's description: embark on a journey of peril and wonder as a Solstice warrior in this turn-based RPG inspired by the classics. Sea of Stars tells the story of two children of the Solstice who combine the powers of the sun and moon to perform eclipse magic, the only force capable of fighting off the monstrous creations of an evil alchemist known as the Fleshmancer. So, to simplify, as the story goes, you play as these Solstice warriors. You combine the powers of the sun and moon to perform magic. As you progress, you gain companions, strengthen your abilities, and you solve these mysteries between all these characters that you meet. Let's get into the pros and cons of Sea of Stars. The first thing that you're going to notice right off the bat is the art style. The sprites are insanely well done as far as the detail, all the environment itself, beautifully illustrated, character design, the animation of the combat moves, the cutscenes. There are full-blown cutscenes. It looks like you're watching a show or a movie. So you'll have these cutscenes where it's just the sprites interacting, but then it'll fade into another scene where it looks like it's an intro to an anime of some kind. Ultimates, the ultimate moves that your characters have, also go into these cutscenes, which is, I just think, is the sickest thing that you can do for an RPG. It really feels like the ultimate move is something worth setting up your combos for, spending your skill points on. They're super powerful. It makes you feel super strong, and they're just fun to watch. For the combat, it is a turn-based RPG, but there is an extra element of timing involved. When you're on offense or defense, you can time an action button to give an added bonus to your basic attacks or your skill attacks. This can result in a bonus effect such as an extra swing from your weapon. In defense, it means negating more damage. That means combat's a little more involved, so you can't just select a move and watch the animation occur. You select the move, and you do have to pay attention a little bit if you care enough, which means you can't select the move and then check your fantasy football scores. My main league, I'm 5-5 right now, so not doing too great. We still have a chance to make the playoffs. So it is engaging in that sense. So that is a pro of combat. I do have a con about the combat as well, so we'll get into that a little bit later. You can time your hits. There are combo attacks that you combine with other characters as well. So one character will perform a move in sync with another character, and they'll combine to do something else. Each one of the characters, I won't spoil how many there are for your team, for your party, but each one of them can combine their moves basically to create a new unique move. There are skill points, mana points that you use. You can build up your ultimate charge. You can build up combo points. They have that locking system for the combat. It has a list of typically, as you progress, it gets more complicated, but it starts with 1 to 2 symbols. Each one of the skill attacks has an effect. So one might be, for example, a sword and a hammer. And the basic attacks for the two main characters is a slicing damage or blunt damage. And that means you have to complete that before the enemy timer runs out, before they do a special move. So you can actually hit those combos. It delays that enemy from carrying out one of their attacks. So that's something, and it gets more complicated with time. So you actually need combos. You actually have to be wary of who you have out during combat. You can swap between multiple characters. It is a little more engaging than just selecting the move, watching it happen. I want to talk about the pacing. Outside of the start of the game, which is a little bit slower, there's a lot of character development, story development, which makes sense. It's a long game. Playing Sea of Stars kind of feels like the snowball rolling down the hill. It starts small, but as you play, it goes further and further into the story. The story picks up, the action picks up, the character development picks up. It gets crazier and crazier as time goes on. The pacing is good, but it is a slow burn at the beginning. I also want to talk about the puzzle solving. The puzzle solving is simple. It's short. I didn't have to Google anything. You get a couple of mechanics to help you. You can push air out of your hands so you can move blocks. You get sort of a grappling hook, which will help you move around the maps, because the maps they're tiered. So you can climb up and down. You can go into the water as well. So you're jumping, you're hoisting, you're climbing, you're diving. It doesn't allow you to go into areas without having everything that you need. So once you're in an area, if you think you're stuck, you're not. You just haven't looked at everything yet. We can talk about the movement, navigation. It's fairly crisp, it's smooth. The maps are pretty linear. You can go back and explore different areas, but as far as the main storyline or your quest is concerned, it does tell you pretty much where to go, and it kind of locks you into that path. It's not that easy to get lost. There's a certain grandness when you come into a new area, and because the art style is just so beautiful, so it does feel like you're in a much bigger area, even though you're pint-sized. I just feel like I have this grand universe in my pocket, especially being on the Switch. Let's talk about the story. The story is rich. There are a ton of characters to get through. I'm constantly meeting new people along the way. The villain is cool. I think anything, movie, game, whatever, if the villain sucks, the story is just not as good. The villain's cool. The story is, I think it's lengthy, which isn't a bad thing because you want your value. I think it's easy to follow, but there are a lot of twists and turns along the way. So you kind of have like the base story of what you're like, okay, I know what this game is about, but there's so many developments along the way, so many interruptions, twists, turns. It is, as far as the story goes, I think it's really well done. We can talk about the audio. The music is fantastic. It changes with every zone that you enter. It really does match kind of the feel of the area that you're in. So you can collect these music sheets. I won't say who you can give it to, but you can collect music sheets and you can actually change the music. Again, another detail that they did not need to include, but just another thing that they added. The length of the title is great, 25 to 40 hours. I've been seeing some reviews that the ending was sort of rushed, but I don't know, how long should the game be? I don't know, 25 to 40 hours. On the 40-hour end, that's plenty of game for me for one title. Anything beyond that, I'm like, is this the only game I'm going to play this year? At the $35 range, 25 to 40 hours. You can play it on the go. I think this is a great length for the title. And then some of my favorite parts. There's a ton of boss fights, and I think a great RPG will always have great boss fights. There's day and night mechanics. It's a really cool mechanic in the game. A lot of the themes center around the moon and the sun, so you can actively change the day and the night depending on what you're doing. There's also treasure everywhere, so this is a game where they reward you for exploration. If there's like a little part of the map that doesn't quite look right or might have an entrance, it probably does. So you should go check it out. There's like lots of hidden caves. It's not always obvious, but if you explore, if you look for it, you will find it. And last, the extras. There's fishing. There is an in-game mini game called Wheels, which you can actually collect characters from. You get a choice of figurines if you can beat the champion at each Wheels table. These are located typically at the ends of each town or area. So you have to go beat the local champion to collect figurines to build out your deck, basically. Again, not something they had to include, but it's just an extra thing that you can go do, and you get little figurines to do it. It's great. It's cool. There's a cooking element as well. So when you do your long rest to heal, you can cook food. So you're constantly harvesting ingredients as you explore. Again, you're rewarded for exploration. So go look for the apple trees, flowers, tubers, whatever, get the food and cook. And that's part of your item. Okay, let's talk about some of the cons. Now, we talked about combat, the pros of the combat system. The cons of the combat system does feel like by hour 20, and I'm just about to hit hour 30 in the game, it can be it feels repetitive sometimes. So the whole thing is based on those timing attacks. So if you just want to hit the button and not pay attention, it potentially could be harder for you to advance. It can be a little repetitive as far as the timing goes. And also the attacks are constantly switched up. So if you think you have memorized a pattern from a certain enemy, it might change on you all of a sudden. And some of it I have still yet to get down. I can see why someone would get frustrated with that type of combat system because you're not sure on the timing, or maybe you're playing on a big screen and there's a little bit of lag. I could see why that would be repetitive or boring even. Whether this is important to you or not, so you do have to watch every cutscene. So that does lengthen the game. If it's important to the story and you're a big story person, great. If sometimes you have 30 minutes and you're just trying to get some combat in and you have a bunch of cutscenes up ahead of you, that could be considered a con. My biggest con for this game is the limited customization of your character. So when you equip new equipment, it doesn't show a change on your character. It doesn't show, if you get some kind of cool cape or a new weapon, it'll still have the same illustrations from the stuff that you start with. So it's just for the stats, not for the aesthetics. It feels like there's small equipment pools. It didn't feel like it mattered that much if I found new equipment, because you can find new equipment in treasure, which again, you're being rewarded for exploration, but typically you can buy the upgrades for the next area at the next vendor. So when you find another vendor, you can typically be caught up to speed if you have enough gold. The equipment felt underwhelming, I guess. Like I upgraded my stuff, but I don't know. It just didn't feel cool. Like, oh, cool, I got a new sword. Yeah, whatever. Also, the amount of gear slots is not very big. You get a couple rings, one weapon, and one piece of armor. Outside of that, there's not much extra. And again, the aesthetics don't change. So what your character looks like is what they look like for the whole game. Something along with that, the leveling up for me felt kind of underwhelming. You would level up. There was no effect. It would just, your screen fades to black. You get 4 abilities to choose from, or stats, excuse me. So health, mana pool, some form of attack or defense as far as physical or magic. You select it and then the screen fades back in. Nitpicky, you level up, but when I play an RPG, leveling up is important, and I wanted to feel like it was a little more important. It was underwhelming, but the art style and the story is just like, the art for me just carries so much of it. So if you have any kind of reservations, you're like, oh, I didn't like this part, it's just so beautiful to look at. You kind of forget some of those aspects, for better or for worse. Take everything with a grain of salt. These are my opinions. You don't have to agree, but those were my biggest cons for the game. So should you spend your money on Sea of Stars? Was it well made? Is it worth your hard-earned coin? Is it worth, more importantly, your time? Absolutely. Sea of Stars will currently set you back $35. And frankly, it should cost a lot more. They could charge $60 for this game and it would still be worth it. It is 100% worth your time and money, and you should feel comfortable investing in this game for yourself or for someone else. So this title is still worth your money, still worth full price. And if it is ever on sale, it is worth the instant buy. I'm currently playing it on Switch. As I understand it, it's currently on Game Pass as well. As always, this is Ghost Stories Gaming. Thank you guys so much for your time. If you enjoyed the content or you want to see more stuff like this, feel free to drop a sub, a like, a comment, a share, whatever. Anything helps. Anything and everything helps as we try to build this channel. I want to do a lot more videos like this, call it a review, but my focus for content like this is to make sure you guys are spending your money wisely when it comes to games, because there are so many now, and there are so many games and developers and publishers trying to rip you off at the same time. Stay safe out there. Protect your wallets. Again, this is Ghost Stories Gaming on all things social. Look for Ghost Stories Gaming or Ghost Plays Games. Drop a sub if you like what you saw and you want to stick around for more. Peace.